I want to introduce you to somebody that I just think is one of the greatest guys I've ever met. And that's hard to say because I've met so many really incredible people. Rishi Sharma, he is a guy that's been on my program a few times. And he started out just wanting to talk to World War II veterans. I'm going to let him tell the story. Quickly, Risha, how are you? Rishi,
great.
You there?
How are you? Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
I can. I'm so glad to have you on the program again. Can you just quickly recap how you started doing this, how old you were, and what you're doing?
Absolutely. I really appreciate this opportunity to talk about the World War II heroes. But my name's Rishi Sharma, and I started interviewing World War II veterans when I was in high school. I've always been interested in the war, and one day I decided to ride my bike basically to the local retirement home, and I wanted to meet the men firsthand who, I'd been reading about and seeing TV shows about. And it was an amazing experience, just how open they were, and the fact that I got to actually look in the eyes of someone who went through hell so that someone like me could be alive. And after meeting a number of these veterans at the retirement home, I really felt a burden that I owed these men, not just my life, but to preserve what they fought for so that future generations won't go to war and that we'll always remember what the World War II veterans have given us. And so when I graduated, I was very blessed to get a bunch of news coverage, and I had a fundraiser, and I raised funding, and to go out and interview as many World War II combat veterans as possible myself. And now it's 4 years later, 48 states, the UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and just over 1,100 interviews now on camera.
Jeez. Who has contacted you, Rishi, has the Smithsonian or National Archives, anyone contacted you about preserving these yet?
Absolutely not. You wouldn't believe the number of people you wouldn't believe the number of organizations I've reached out to who just, I guess they aren't interested, maybe because it doesn't fit their narrative.
Okay. May I, as a representative of Mercury One, put you in touch? We would love to preserve the record of these stories. I think you do one of the most important things. History will remember your name. It might not be in your lifetime, but they will remember you because of what you're doing. This is vitally important.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, I'm not all for that. As long as people remember what the World War II veterans went through. I mean, when I was in high school, as a member of the younger generation, I'm 22 now, I can honestly tell you that they don't teach World War II in school anymore. And what they do cover is how bad, quote, the U.S. was for dropping the atomic bombs. I mean, people are being brainwashed nowadays. The younger generation are being brainwashed to hate our country, to hate our veterans, to hate our way of life, and it's not right. And I don't want to see that happen any further. That's why recording these stories of what these veterans actually went through, what they witnessed, the atrocities they came across, I mean, whoever has that footage is going to be able to control the narrative.
I know. I tell you, Rishi, I just looked at the brand new AP standards for history. These are AP classes. This is not your regular class. This is the I'm really smart, I want to take an AP history class so it counts towards college. World War II, there is no mention of Hitler, the Holocaust, the Germans, the English. It picks up the story. There's more to it than that. I can't remember all of it. It picks up at the bombing, not of Pearl Harbor, but of Hiroshima. That's it. And the AP requirement is that you understand that the United States bombed Japan with a nuclear weapon and, quote, that made the world question the motives of the United States of America. Holy cow.
It's absolutely, I mean, it's revisionist history, and it's the lies, because what people fail to realize is that we gave Japan many opportunities to surrender. We had them completely surrounded by naval blockades. They had no food coming in or out. They refused. We dropped over 5 million pamphlets. We, meaning the United States and our allies, dropped 5 million pamphlets over the target cities telling the civilians to evacuate. And after the first bomb, they didn't surrender. So, I mean, it took 2 atomic bombs to even make them consider surrendering. And there's a well-known story that when the Emperor Hirohito actually came on the radio across Tokyo, the citizens didn't believe him. You know, they thought it was some kind of Allied propaganda.
Because they had trained their citizens to believe that that's what was going to happen. The propaganda in Japan about the United States, they believed we would eat them practically. I mean, they thought we were monsters because of the propaganda.
Absolutely. I mean, there was a well-known incident on the island of Saipan where the Japanese had a garrison. There was a civilian population there as well, and when the Americans landed, the Japanese forced the civilians to a cliff, women and babies, and had told them stories that the Marines and the Army infantry would, you know, hurt them and do cruel things. And these babies were thrown off the cliffs, and the women jumped after them, and the Japanese, you know, obviously soldiers went themselves. But we had translators, you know, up on the cliffs trying to tell these civilians to come and that they would be safe. And I mean, it's so dangerous, this type of rhetoric, that the United States and the Allies were in the wrong. I run this YouTube channel called Legends of World War II, and some of that content of the veterans talking about their experiences, it's been censored by YouTube. But what's also shocking is how many uninformed people there are. I get comments all the time of people thinking that Pearl Harbor was in retribution for us bombing Japan. They don't realize it was the other way around.
Oh my gosh. You mentioned a minute ago that your videos are being banned or demonetized on YouTube. Why is that?
You know, I wish I knew the answer, sir.
Oh my gosh.
Basically, you know, I raised all that funding, and I've been doing these oral histories of the World War II veterans. I give them copies of the interviews, but I would also put it on YouTube. Back in December of 2020, the channel, I wasn't trying to be a YouTuber or anything. It was just a storage place for the videos. But back in 2020, December, some of the little vignettes I was making, you know, 10-minute clips taken out of some of the interviews, some of them started going viral. I mean, getting millions of views. And I guess the way it works is the YouTube algorithm picks it up and they'll show it on many people's homepage.
Yes.
And so that was happening to some of the videos, causing a huge surge in traffic to the channel. And so I go from about 2,000 subscribers to about 25,000 in just maybe a week. And it's about 2,000 every day, and then it stops. And it craters down to maybe 100. And the analytics just don't make sense.
No,
you know,
yes,
videos.
Yes, they do from the YouTube side. If you know exactly what YouTube is doing, it makes perfect sense. They throttled you.
Absolutely. I've looked it up. I've reached out to other people who deal with World War II on YouTube. They face the same exact thing because I guess the algorithm and the people behind it, YouTube, they believe anything to do with World War II is promoting Nazis and Hitler, and they don't take the time to decipher. It's ridiculous because, you know, there's no politics in these videos. It's facts. It's the veterans saying what they went through and what they saw. And, you know, without the monetization, I can't keep, you know, affording to stay on the road. And I just find it incredible that they find themselves to be the superior power that can censor whose voices can be heard and whose cannot. I mean, these makeup tutorials, they get 1 billion views, but the men who fought for our freedom, who went through hell, I mean, why can't we give them the same attention?
Tell me the most interesting and best out of all of that you've done? Hard to choose, I know. What was the thing that really opened your eyes or moved you or had you look at things differently?
You mean veteran interview?
In an interview, yeah.
Yeah, that's difficult. There's so many interesting veterans, but I would like to tell you about a man named Chuck Battaglia. I found out through him through a directory of wounded veterans. I literally would spend my days going through name by name, calling these veterans who all belong to the same organization. And I came across his name, and I reached out to him, and he agreed to do the interview. And he didn't mention anything on the phone, anything unusual. I come to his house. This man is a double amputee. Both of his legs were blown off by a mortar during the fighting for the Hurtgen Forest in October of 1944. He was the friendliest man, I swear to God. He would take the shirt off his back to help you. And it was incredible to sit there and talk to him and hear his story. Basically, he was 18 when Pearl Harbor gets attacked, 19 when he decides to join. After training, he gets shipped overseas, and he joins as a replacement for the 1st Infantry Division. And he was only in combat for about 2 weeks. And he is sitting behind a hedge one night, and he told me he could hear Germans on the other side, but he was out on guard. And all of a sudden, next thing he knows, he hears the loudest explosion of his life. And when he comes to, he can't move. And he doesn't feel his legs. So a couple of his buddies come, and they carry him to the first aid station. It doesn't look like he's going to make it. He had a strong faith, and obviously he did. He comes back home. This is someone, who had his whole life ahead of him. 19 years old, to be dealt such a severe blow. But his family told me something I sincerely believe, that he never complained a single day in his life about his situation. All he wanted to do was get a job and raise a family and be a contributing member to society. He wanted to give back, even though he had already given his legs. And the real interesting thing is, he ended up working for the VA as a prosthetic technician, making prosthetics for other veterans.
Here's where I want you to go. I want you to go to the Facebook page, Heroes of the Second War, or heroesofthesecondworldwar.org, heroesofthesecondworldwar.org. You can help them out with GoFundMe.com, Legends of World War WW2, if you will, WWII, GoFundMe page, Legends of WWII. It's Rishi Sharma. Rishi, keep up the good work. Thank you for joining us.